It's time now for a look at the business news with Kate Moody, and we're going to start out with that vote in the German Parliament, Kate.
Exactly. It was a really hard-won vote for the Greek government, this vote that unlocks this emergency funding, an additional 7 billion euros. Now, Germany holds around 70 billion of the 240 billion euro Greek debt, which is shared between the EU, IMF and the ECB. That's nearly a third of the debt, the biggest contribution by any EU country. And there's little sympathy for Greece's plight in Germany. Surveys this week suggested only 21% of the German public supports that loan extension. Remember, German lawmakers were voting on whether the reforms suggested by Athens earlier this week go far enough to meet its obligations. The Greek government has vowed to combat tax evasion and corruption while trying to fulfill its election pledges to help those most in need and hire more public service workers. Now, Germany's finance minister has insisted the 4-month extension was a necessary step to give Athens more time, but not necessarily more leeway.
We have to bring Greece into a situation that finance markets trust them again, and that Greece can act without any support on its own again. It's called competitiveness, and for Greece there is a longer road to go than for any other European country.
And that news has done little to cheer investors. Most of the major indices in Europe are trading in negative territory this Friday. Just the CAC 40 above the flat line. The Athens Stock Exchange is down over 4%. Still quite a lot of skepticism there and across Europe about whether this loan extension will make the country and the Eurozone more stable in the medium to long term. Now, one of the top performers on the CAC 40 this session is Airbus, where shares are currently trading up over 6%. Europe's largest plane maker said its net income for 2014 was 2.3 billion euros. Profits soared 59%, while sales rose 5%. This despite taking a 551 million euro charge because of delays on its military transporter. Our correspondent Chris Bachmann has been speaking to the company's chief financial officer.
In Munich, well, we've just had the Airbus group results and a record, basically over 2 billion euros in net profit, which is a lot of money. In fact, I can't understand that kind. But fortunately, the person who's actually in charge of the money is with me right now. He's in fact the chief financial officer, Harald Wilhelm. All this money you've made, what are you going to do with it?
We invest into our programs moving forward, ramp-ups a lot. We continue to improve our products, but at the same time, we return the cash also to shareholders, and that's why the board will or recommends to the annual general meeting a step up in the dividend by 60% for 2014, which leads to a record dividend the company is going to pay.
Of course, one key issue is defence. That's not as much less than you get on the civil side with the actual kind of passenger planes. With security issues in Europe, maybe Ukraine, with issues over our own personal security, over terrorism, is there a market potential for the defence industry to pick up?
I'm not counting on budgets to pick up. You can see our pure defence revenues remain stable at 11 billion in 2014. We see that basically moving forward, but we're cranking up profitability. We'll further do so in 2015. But we also went through a significant portfolio review in 2014, which we started to execute in 2014 to focus on the defense, which remains a very healthy business if you look into the various product lines.
But you still have a situation where you're far too more dependent on your civil side, aren't you?
I would call that a luxury problem to have. The growth in the commercial side is excellent. The backlog stands at a 10-year production. On the backdrop of that, we increased the rate to 50 on the 320s today, and we have potential for more even. So we're very happy about that, but have the defense business at a stable level next to it, I think we're well set.
That was France 24 correspondent Chris Bachmann speaking to the chief financial officer of Airbus. Now, staying in the skies for a few more of the day's business headlines, IAG shares got a boost as the company lifted this year's profit forecast by 20% and reported better than expected profits of nearly 1.4 billion euros for 2014. The parent company of British Airways, as well as Spain's Iberia and Vueling, said it was helped by low oil prices and new fuel-efficient aircraft. IAG is trying to buy Ireland's Aer Lingus for about 1.4 billion euros. No details yet on the progress of that bid. Apple aficionados may soon be able to get their hands on the brand's smartwatch. The iWatch was unveiled back in September but has not yet been widely available to the public. Apple's now scheduled an event on March 9th when it's expected to show off the gadget's capabilities and try to convince consumers that they need one. And India's government will unveil a new budget this Saturday, the second under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Analysts expect him to announce measures to make India an easier place to do business and kickstart a new era of growth. It's a highly anticipated event as Modi approaches the one-year mark in office. TV channels have doubled their advertising rates for that Saturday afternoon block, and the country's stock markets will hold a special Saturday trading session. There's not always that much attention paid to the budgets in France anyway.
That's for sure, and certainly I've never seen anything like that in the history of covering Australian